Hi, this is the Democratic Alliance Labour Bulletin. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for sharing this, sending it to friends on your Facebook, any which way you can. It's Friday, the 10th of June, 2022. First of all, I'd like to report on what transpired in Parliament these last 2 days, which was disastrous, and it fits in with the discussion I'm going to have about chaos. I'm going to report a little bit about on the possibility of that taxi strike and, of course, strikes and essential services breakdown. So thank you for tuning in today. Like I said, Friday the 10th of June from the Democratic Alliance, the Labour Report. I'm Michael Bagram. I'm the Labour spokesperson for the Democratic Alliance. Well, you might have all heard or seen or possibly read about the disaster we had in Parliament over these last 2 days. That is the 9th and 10th of June 2022. The Freedom Front tried to keep a little bit of decorum, but they were so few and disappeared. The EFF destroyed everything they could touch. The ANC were at sea. They didn't know what was going on. And it was only the Democratic Alliance that sat there trying desperately to get some decorum in the House. But it broke apart completely. Somehow our government can't seem to even organize the proverbial pee up in a brewery. And this is what we experienced. The Speaker was useless. The Parliament itself fell apart. We eventually got to hear some of the non-sayings from the President. We got no answers, in fact, nothing at all. But at least we eventually got it done. I don't know, but I think that's indicative of the chaos that we're seeing in South Africa at the moment. People might have also seen there was a call for a mass taxi and bus strike across the country. That didn't even seem to be organized either. And in fact, the taxi associations said that they never even applied for it. I think it was just social media that got everyone all worked up and discussing this. It sounds strange, but social media seems to be creating a bigger problem than anything at all. So we didn't really have much of a taxi strike. We had no bus strike. And in fact, COSATU, the trade union umbrella body, said they didn't agree to the strike in the first place. So there we have it. Now, what I did want to talk about, most importantly, is the problem that we're having with large-scale strikes, and especially in essential services. Now, people might understand that essential services are part of the Labour Relations Act. It's when you need to keep something going. You can't have a strike. You can't really have a strike, for instance, in the police or the army, or even at Eskom. You have to keep the essential services going. And we have an Essential Services Committee, which is part of the Department of Employment and Labour. They seem to be doing a good job. So here for once, I'm praising one of the sections, one of the entities within the Department of Employment and Labour. They do seem to do a good job, and they are people that listen to us, people that take into account the economy and that sort of thing. And you might have heard on my previous broadcast how the minister could step in. And we have legislation for that, to stop negative strikes, unproductive strikes, and strikes that destroy our economy and also destroy certain industries. And so one needs to have a very careful look at all the chaos that's going on around us and see if there's any in which way we can make some sense of it, and also if we can bring some decorum and some sanity back. Now, the Democratic Alliance has been pushing on this for a long time. You might have noticed in the Western Province, we are running far better than any other province. It's the only solvent province. It's the only province that's creating jobs. You saw in the latest jobs figure release, that the Western Province actually created jobs instead of losing more. We've had 10 years of successive quarters in the rest of the country that have been losing jobs. We are now on the cusp of a possible Arab Spring. It is almost a failed state, other than the Western Province. And it's because somehow the politicians don't get it right. Somehow the political parties are trying to undermine the system. The ANC is split right down the middle, and no one seems to know what side they're even on. I mean, it's madness, and the chaos that we saw in Parliament was indicative of that madness. Well, we don't want an Arab Spring. We don't want chaos. We don't want anarchy. And the DA is your answer. And we show it by how we govern. We try desperately to govern fairly, rigorously, and of course, at the end of the day, honestly. And it's the only thing that helps. It's the only thing that you can get going. And that's why people are rushing from around the country, the semi-immigration, right here into the Western Province. And so we're looking at that and we're saying, how can we try and recreate that in other centers? Well, one of the ways in which we're going to do it is we're going to support essential services. We have that legislation that can stop the destructive behavior. We can have minimum service agreements, like we see that you can have an ESCOM strike, yes, but you need a minimum service agreement. And we, within the Labour team at the Democratic Alliance, are pushing for that heavily. We monitor all the strikes, and we say very strongly there has to be consequence management. If people go on an illegal strike, they must face dismissal. If they go on an illegal strike, obviously they're not going to get any sympathy from government, provincial or local government. And we're seeing that here in the Western Cape. And in fact, we haven't had municipal strikes for a long time because of that, because we run it with consequence management. The Democratic Alliance believes very strongly in the rule of law, and if someone breaks the law, they've got to answer for it, and in particular in the Labour field. So we have illegal public gatherings, illegal public strikes. We've got to act quickly and swiftly to the extent that no one is immune from that consequence management. People have to get dismissed if that's the case. We, within the Democratic Alliance, strongly believe in engaging with civil society. We talk to all the groups that are involved. We engage with the trade unions and discuss that with them. And that's the one way in which we can avoid the illegal, destructive behavior that we're seeing. We can push for interest arbitrations rather than strikes. And many of the trade unions are agreeing to it. It's been fantastic. It's been a fantastic ride within the Democratic Alliance, seeing how we can have these positive discussions to avoid destructive behavior. When we see leaders in the country, like we've just seen with Cyril Ramaphosa, willing quite happily to somehow break the law, then you can understand why others feel that it's easy for them to do it. Well, we can't tolerate behavior like that. We can't have the law broken. We must ensure that there is consequence management. Doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum and who employs you, from the president down to the person who can't find a job. Everyone has to respect the rule of law, and we at the Democratic Alliance promise to do that for you. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you.